My darling one. Nearly 4 years of separation, darling, and I love you as much, if not more, than ever. I remember so well how the prospect of 3 years away from you seemed a lifetime. It has been an eternity, darling. But having stood that test, we can be sure of the future. I just live for the day when I shall see you again, my darling. I shall probably be struck completely dumb. Take great care of yourself, my darling. I love you. Always have and always will. Don.
Scientists, British and American, have made the atomic bomb at last.
An American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima. That bomb has... The Japanese have just officially laid down their arms. They have signed terms of unconditional surrender.
I was in Essex, at a hospital in Essex, and he telephoned through to there. He must telephone my family first, and they gave him the number. And I just didn't know. I couldn't think what to say. I said, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe that's you. Is it really you, you know? And I said, I don't know what to say.
It must have been an overwhelming moment, but he could not come back immediately.
No, they had to go to Australia. He was a skeleton, complete skeleton. They went on a hospital ship to Australia, and they were there 6 months. Meanwhile, I had my appendix out.
One always ends romantic stories with the wedding and you say they lived happily ever after. But of course Donald was bringing back with him the experience of the prisoner of war camp. While he was in prisoner of war camp, he had kept a diary, isn't that right?
Yes, and I knew nothing about that when he first came home. He must have told me sometime later on. And he didn't want to be reminded of that diary. He put it away in a drawer.
Could you have read it?
No, I couldn't, because it was in code. It was in mathematical code, in our names. And he could have done, but he wouldn't.
In a street of neat little terraced houses, once more in Tunbridge Wells, I'm coming to see Christopher Hill, who actually has his father's diary.
Oh, hello, Andrew.
Christopher.
Nice to see you again.
Hi, nice to see you.
Do come in.
I've come to see the diary. Perhaps you could describe to me what it looks like and how, so far as you know, he put it together.
Well, I mean, just looking at it, it looks like a rather grubby-looking school exercise book with the words Russell Mathematical Tables written fairly crudely on the top.
Why do you think that he wrote that on the cover?
Well, at the time when I first saw it, of course, I thought that's what it was, until it was explained to me by him years later, and the mystery has continued to unravel. We now know that he wrote those words on the front of the book, so the Japanese would see it as some kind of innocuous book which he used to keep records for himself, to keep himself amused and entertained while he was a POW in the camp. And that's what I thought it was.
While you've been turning over the pages, I've noticed that it does look very much like old-fashioned logarithm tables used to look like. They are just some columns of figures.
That's right. And in fact, when I was at school, I struggled with maths, so I wouldn't have been able to make a distinction between a real mathematical table and a fake one. So for all intents and purposes, that's exactly what they were. And to a child of 13, that wasn't very interesting at all. And he demonstrated to me that the numbers became words. I can't remember precisely how it was done. It was only half an hour of a Sunday afternoon, and after a while he didn't want to explain anymore, and we put it away, and I accepted that.
The habit of secrecy is hard to break, as was his code. the code within which he had so carefully hidden the writings in his diary. Even the Imperial War Museum couldn't figure it out when Pamela eventually tried to interest them in it. But how hard could it be? One man, malnourished, alone in a Japanese prison, with none of today's computers to help him? Surely it wouldn't take a top-flight mathematician several obsessive months during 1996 to crack this code. A mathematician like Dr. Philip Aston of Surrey University, for instance.
Well, of course, the first thing you're going to look for if it's a code is to look carefully at the numbers. And of course, the first page, all the numbers were between 1 and 26. So that's a fairly good indication that it's not just random lots of numbers, that these numbers are standing for letters, and it's a question of trying to get the information out of those numbers. The next step is to try and turn the numbers into letters, and to work out how this could be done. Now, if you take any long piece of text from the English language and you look at the frequency of letters, so you count up how many times each letter occurs in that piece of text, then you can order the letters according to their frequency. So E is always the most common letter in a long piece of text. The second most common is T, and you can carry on, and Q and Z occur at the end of the list, not too surprisingly. So if you're trying to match up numbers with letters, then all I had to do was to type the numbers into the computer, wrote a little program to add up the frequency of these numbers to see which was the most common number. And when I did that, the number 5 came out as the most frequent, and of course E is the 5th letter. The second most common number was 20, and T, to save you counting, is the 20th letter in the alphabet. So it seemed from this that what that was telling me, and when I checked all the way down the list, there was this same correspondence pretty much all the way down the list. Simply A was corresponded to the number 1, B corresponded to the number 2, C to the number 3, and so on. So there's a very simple translation of numbers across to the letters. So I'd hoped that all I had to do was to find this right correspondence, and then I'd be able to read off the text. But with such a simple correspondence, that wasn't the case, and so then I was just left with lots of letters to deal with rather than lots of numbers.
I'm here in the Pantiles, the very heart of Tunbridge Wells, on a beautifully balmy spring morning. And I'm about to see Carol Morris, the daughter of Pamela and Donald Hill, to talk about their marriage and the long love that marked their relationship.
There were times when they were together where they were very right. There were times when they were together where they were very wrong. But of course that is more of a child's perception of it. So I can only really tell you how I saw it. But the bottom line was, it was very clear that they had a lasting love for each other, that I would never, for all the ups and downs we went through, they loved each other with a real depth, which was sometimes very destructive as well, yes.